Hey guys, welcome back to my Ambition. Good day.
Hi, everybody. Happy
Uh,
weekend. Happy long
happy-
weekend.
exactly. Oh yeah, bank holiday in the UK. Gosh, but then if you're in a different country, it might not be bank holiday.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. Sorry, guys. We get free this weekend.
Exactly. Woo, party! Right, welcome back to my Ambition. I'm Tiffany, and I've got
I'm Alex. Hi.
hello. So today we're going deep today, guys. We're going real deep. So today we're going to talk about mindset matters. And the topic is about cultivating a positive mindset for success. And we're going to explore that from a perspective of how you develop a positive and resilient mindset, even in the face of challenges, and just talking about our experiences and how we maintain this sort of mindset in our lives. So yeah, I'll let Alex carry it away.
Thank you. I do think that mindset matters. And I think it's not necessarily about I think there's a lot online, isn't there, about being positive. And I think sometimes that slips into a bit of toxic positivity, even of, you can be positive about most things, but I think sometimes people are pushed to not have that opportunity to feel bad about things as well, like just to move on straight away into positivity. And sometimes it's not that easy, is it? But I do think your mindset makes a really big difference to how you respond to different challenges and setbacks. I think, you can, through having a positive mindset and trying to develop your own mindset and I guess control over that, I think you can then use setbacks and things that you maybe haven't enjoyed going through as a positive. And I think you can kind of take from it what you've learned from that, what it's taught you. And I think for me, I would say the biggest example for me, we were just talking about it a little bit before we started recording. So I've talked before about the kind of difficult pregnancy I went through. But after that, so I'm normally quite a positive person. I tend to be quite optimistic. I feel like you also tend to be quite an optimistic person generally.
I try.
Um, but after my son was born, obviously we had real things to worry about. So my pregnancy, I had real worries about whether my baby would be healthy when he was born, whether he'd be able to breathe and things like that. And then we had the additional worry, he was in sort of special care when he was born. And then he had an operation when he was a year old. So we did, and it was during COVID, and he wasn't meant to catch colds or anything like that because he had a lung condition. So I did have a lot of things pressures, things to kind of make me stressed and worried. And then when that all came to an end, I thought that I would feel better. And actually, I didn't feel better at all. I suddenly started to worry about everything. So as soon as he would go out with other people, I worried about imaginary, probably quite nonsensical worries. I was scared if he went out to the park that he might get attacked by a dog. If he went out with his grandparents in the car, I was worried, like seriously worried that they would all die in a car crash. And I think it took me a while to realize I was actually suffering quite badly from PTSD and anxiety, really, from what we'd been through. So I think for me, realizing that helped me. And I think mindset's very different to mental health. This was actually a mental health issue. I had real anxiety that I just couldn't shake, but I had to make that decision myself to seek some help for that. So that was kind of one step of mindset of like, I need to talk to somebody. This isn't normal to worry about absolutely everything and be awake worrying about what if he gets ill. And it was triggered by real events, but then these were all hypothetical worries that would just go round and round and round in my head. And eventually I had CBT to deal with that. And some of those techniques are really helpful in terms of changing your mindset. So for me, I think it was a conscious decision of I can't continue like this. This is really unhealthy. It's affecting my sleep. It's affecting my quality of life. I've got to do something about it. So I went through the local GP, talking therapies, etc. But I think some of those things about, is this a real worry? Is this imaginary, that you kind of learn in CBT, were really effective for mindset, and I think can be employed outside of a kind of bit of mental health crisis like that. I think you don't necessarily need to be in something as kind of stressful and as potentially dark as feeling anxious about everything. I think you can, and for me, I think that that whole experience has made me more empathetic, more understanding of other people having mental health issues, and I think it's made me more resilient and more aware of my own emotions and how to use a negative experience like the whole thing with my pregnancy and what Ted went through to really make me appreciate. I know that you've talked about kind of defining moments in your life, how you can use that as a positive force to appreciate the good things that are in your life.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Alex. I was just saying that I love how you've turned it around. And, I love what you said about you recognize that it was an actual thing you experienced. It's not like, but at the same time, you recognize that you needed help, you asked for the help, and then you've now banked it right into your, reserve of things that, look, I've overcome that and I'm here now. But you still
Yeah.
have empathy for other people as well. So, like, look, other people can struggle. And when they're struggling, you can talk to them about it, and you can build that ladder of kind of empathy and understanding. So, yeah, thank you for being open about that, because that must have been hard for you.
Yeah, I mean, so it definitely was a hard time, and I'd had counselling to try and deal with what I'd gone through in the pregnancy, and then I had separate CBT counselling afterwards to overcome this anxiety. I was really lucky that some of that was just through the NHS, and I also had some via like workplace employee assistance stuff. So I try and be quite open with that in the workplace as well, because I think by being open about it, and I think people are more likely to ask for help when they need it, because you've kind of got that culture of openness around it. So I would always say to colleagues when they're going through things, remember the employee assistance portal's there if you do need to talk to someone about it. And then I'd quite often say I used it after my pregnancy. I wouldn't necessarily go into details with people at work, but just encouraging people to take that step to help themselves, I think, is really important.
No, that makes sense. Thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think this is one of the things that made us, really build this friendship. I think it's because I very much recognize that thing about you that's different, and I'm the same. I do share a similar perspective with life, and the fact that we always have a choice. I think that's a very powerful thing to say. And don't get me wrong, I know we all have moments that's difficult, but ultimately we have a choice. I mean, I'll read out one of my favorite quotes. There's a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and it is it's a must read for anyone who's interested in developing a resilient mindset. One of my favorite quotes. Oh, if you know, I've read it, I read it every year, like twice a year. Like I always go back to it. It's the book about mindset. I won't go into any detail about it, but it's anyway. One of the quotes, one of my favorite quotes for me that I always go back to is, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And I always go back to that, because I think it's not what's happening to you in life that matters, it's how you're dealing with it and how you're creating this narrative. And I think once you can create a bulletproof narrative, I really do think you can overcome anything. You can overcome anything. I really do believe that. And I don't know if that's just come from, again, like I said, I've been through so many negative things in my life. And I think a lot of times people do say to me, oh, you're so very positive. And I look at them and I'm like, no, I'm not positive. I've been through so much crap that I've learned that I can stand against anything. And when you talk about resilience, I mean, I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, I know today we're talking about like mindset for success, but I do think success starts with the right mindset. Success, anything, and as a mom, motherhood, whatever that may look like. Success in your career, success in your family, relationship life. When you're resilient and you commit to building resilience, I do think it makes a difference. I mean, I'll give an example. When I was at uni, I actually suffered from depression. And I only recognize the depression now that I'm out of it. Back then, I just thought I was very sad. I went through a very sad phase in my life from when I was quite young. And this is something I've really recognized with time. I was quite a sad person, to the point where I used to think I had, what's that condition when you kind of go through happiness and sadness quite quickly? I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, so like bipolar or yeah.
Bipolar, yeah. I haven't had a couple of friends who jokingly say, "Oh, I think you got bipolar." And now that I probably did have bipolar, but I think when you're going through something, you don't recognize it. And uni was one of the darkest times of my life. Like I can't even begin to tell you how sad I was at uni. That's the best
Oh,
way to describe
Tiffany.
it. Yeah, I just had this dark cloud. I couldn't shift, and it was because of so many reasons. But I remember I had counseling for that, and I remember just like at uni, I used to lock myself in my room and well, my friends would come knocking or calling me, and I was just wouldn't answer the door or not open the door and pretend I wasn't in. And that was a very dark time for me. But again, I had counseling, and again, obviously, I recovered from that. But
Hmm.
now I look back and I realize that it's not. It's just this negative thing to go through life and how you deal with it that really matters. And what I've learned is that's why I'm very committed to building my mindset. Like I'm one of those people. I go to the gym as much as I try to meditate, as much as I try to journal, as much as I try to do my affirmations, as much as I try to not think positively, but change the dialogue in my head. So rather than see myself as a victim of life and things have happened to me, I genuinely feel like I can overcome these things and I can do great things in life. And I don't think that's something I've just come up with unintentionally. I think I've
Hmm.
been very intentional. Like I read certain books and I'm one of those people like I don't I choose my I choose the people I hang around with. I'm very selective with that because again, I do think mindset is huge. And if you
Hmm.
can, I feel like if you can conquer that side of your life, anything is possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you're saying there about like building resilience is really important. And people, it's not to say it can kind of cure mental illness, but I think it helps to kind of protect you against some of the kind of triggers for that sort of thing, I guess. But by building up, it's almost like doing CBT on yourself a bit there, what you're saying. That you have helped to shift the way that you're thinking about things, by building that kind of positive mindset. And it can be really hard. But I think that the more that you do it, the better equipped you are to deal with knockbacks, setbacks,
I
and
think
turn them,
so.
yeah, to turn
Yeah.
them, have that positive slant instead. Like,
Yeah.
using them to kind of say, what have I learned from that? What would I do differently next time? Rather than, oh my God, I'm such a failure for not getting it
Yeah.
right.
And I think another way to look at this, I always think, would you like wake up in the morning, not brush your teeth? So why would you then kind of live life without certain habits that looks after your mind as well? Because it's crazy how we will be, I'm never not going to brush my teeth. I'm never not going to wash my face. But it's like, hey, have you done something to weather the storms of life by doing something mentally as well, like mental exercises? And I just think sometimes we take it for granted. We don't invest in that side. Like people go to gym, they get like massive muscles, but inside, like something little happens and they crumble. And I'm like, listen, I know you're a human being. I'm not saying, we won't all crumble like, but it's like, can you have a framework that
Mhm.
you ultimately go back to? Something that you can just helps you to walk, to work through difficult times. We all need that.
I think what you said as well about like being selective about the kind of people you surround yourself with as well, because some people are really great at helping you build your mindset, helping you build who you are as a person, being a positive kind of, and that's not to say don't hang around with your friends when they're
Oh no,
going through
no.
hard times or anything
Oh no,
like
no,
that.
it's just yeah, no, there is we're not yeah, definitely not that other side. I mean, look, the thing is, I'm saying all this, but don't get me wrong, I cry sometimes. Like I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm not this, I'm not like um I try to be as bulletproof as possible, but I have moments where I crumble. I am sad sometimes, and I'm not always happy. I don't go around like skipping. Sometimes I'm not even happy. But again, it's like it's like I said, it's just these things you build. It's this muscle. I'm always working on this muscle of having purpose in life, of feeling. And I think a lot of it kind of comes down to certain habits as well. Like resilience is about, hey, are you allowing yourself to be defined by material things, so that when you don't have those material things, I'm not happy because I couldn't get that dress, or so it's
Mhm.
about, again, just trying as much as you can, letting go of certain things that are always changing, like circumstances always changing. The weather's going to change. Oh, it's bad weather today. Oh, I feel sad. It's just,
Mhm.
if once you start to detach yourself from things that are consistently changing, I feel like you can learn to be a lot more stable and
Mhm.
kind of almost go through life in almost like a steady line, as opposed to letting things make you go up and down. Oh, I'm just sad today because that didn't happen. Oh, so
Mhm.
it's just this muscle. I think it's a muscle you build.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. And I think, again, like what I was saying about who you surround yourself with, some
Mhm.
people are like real positive influences because they're like not necessarily because they help celebrate your successes, that they're pleased for you, and can they're happy for you to make positive changes to yourself as well. They're not kind of holding you back. And I think that kind of mindset is quite important as well. For me, if a friend of mine does something amazing, I'm excited for them and I'm happy. I think some people have friends who are jealous of their successes, and that, they would secretly prefer them to not be successful.
Oh
Um,
dear.
You know what I mean? And I think that's
I
the
know.
kind of thing that people should try and avoid in terms of people they're surrounding themselves with. You want someone who's genuinely happy for you and supporting your successes, and vice versa, that you are happy and supportive of them. I think you're right about not being materialistic as well. That's not what
Oh,
this is.
that helps big time. Gosh. Oh, because yeah, that's huge. Like we're so materialistic, and we always think like we always move in the goalpost. Oh, I'll be happy when I buy that house, and you get the house, and you're like, oh, I'll be happy when I get that, king size bed. And you get the bed, and you're like, "Ah, actually, I'll be happy when I have." Then you keep moving, and you're never just grateful and content.
Yeah, there's never an end point to that,
There's
is
never an end point, and there's nothing wrong with again. There's nothing wrong with again. It's this middle ground, isn't it? There is nothing wrong with moving the goalposts as well, because you do need to grow, you need to become more, you need to evolve.
there?
But it's just I think it's balance, and it's such a hard balance of like I'm happy. I want more out of life. I'm happy right now because life is pretty good. I'm healthy.
Mhm.
I'm alive. I've had breakfast. It's just finding little things and just being grateful for them. Mm.
Yeah, and in terms of the not being materialistic, I think like decoupling ambition and how you think about that from material stuff, and it being about, are you meeting your goals as a person rather than am I buying the latest this, that, or the other? I think are better goals to have. And some of that material success will come with you achieving your ambitions and going through life, but it's not the be all and end all. Being happy with your self and being fulfilled by what you do is kind of more important than the material end goal, for me
Exactly.
anyway.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like detaching yourself almost from the outcomes, but
Mhm.
defining yourself by the actions you're taking. And that's hard as well, I think, sometimes to like not think, oh, but I didn't have a good day because I didn't land that client. But did you have a good day in terms of did you call the client? They just didn't respond positively to you. So there's so much more beyond this, isn't it? But no, I like what you said there. It's really hard. I think the mindset thing is very, very hard, and I think it's worth saying that as well. I hope people don't think we're just kind of sharing these lovely ideas. Like we are real people. We deal with real problems. We have real, you know, um, things happening in our lives. But it's just that we've understood and we recognize that this bulletproof optimism from life is something you have to build. And I think another thing I would love to share as well is like my relationship with God. It's a key part of my resilience. I mean, I grew up in a house where you had to go to church, and I hated it. But oh my God, why do I have to go to church? But as I got older and kind of gone on my own journey, gone on my own way, I've come now to build a relationship with God, and for me, that is the main foundation of my life. And obviously, I'm not trying to preach to anyone, but for me, my not religion, but my relationship with God is the foundation of my life in the sense that I genuinely believe that I'm here for a reason. And look, I might be crazy, but I genuinely believe I'm here for a reason. I believe that God has a plan for me, and I do believe that there are things that are beyond like me being here. So because of that, I always feel like if something bad happens, it doesn't matter. It's not going to destroy me. There's more for me. So I think having that sort of foundation for my life and purpose for my life does help me a lot. So that when I go through things like I said, I went through depression at uni. I mean, I suffered many, many years ago. If I met my husband, I went through a terrible heartbreak that really crumbled me. Like I was a
Oh,
mess.
Tiffany.
No. But again, and it's not like I went through these things and I was sad and I was depressed. I couldn't leave the house. But again, I always feel like my relationship with God reminds me that whatever happens, there is a plan. And because of that, I'm just like, hey, next day, let's go. Let's keep going. Let's through the tears. Let's keep going. Through the sadness, let's keep going. So again, that is a key thing for my resilience.
Okay. So that helps with your mindset as well.
Definitely, because I feel like as a Christian, I always refer to like, God has a plan for me. There is something beyond just me being here, like just kind of being at the consequences of things happening in my life. I feel like there's a greater plan. I feel like
Okay.
I was meant to be here. So because of that, whenever things happen, maybe it is madness as well. I think when things happen, as a Christian or as a child of God, I always try to define it along the lines of there's more beyond this. So this is not the end for me. Like until I'm dead and I'm literally like, my body is physically not here anymore. I just feel like there's more to life. And when bad things happen, I explain in a way like that's part of the plan. And this is meant to build me up. This is meant to help me grow up and learn something, in the failures, in the mistake, in the tragedy, in the sadness. I'm like, this is meant to build me up. This is meant to help me recognize something about life and learn something. And I think, hey, what can I learn from this to then be more optimistic? But like I said, it could all be madness, but it helps me.
Oh, see, I can't say that I am religious. I grew up very, very, very Catholic.
All right.
Very Catholic. Like my parents are crazily Catholic, but I would say I'm a
Okay.
religious person these days.
All right.
But I think it's really interesting to hear how it's such a positive thing in your life and that it kind of helps you build that resilience. I think anything in your life like that helps you, I think, what you're saying there to me sounds like, understanding your place in the world is helpful. And I think thinking that it's not just about you seems like a quite nice perspective to take from that.
So where does yours come from? Like, because I generally I admire you as a person. I always think
Thanks, Tiffany. same.
Well, what are you rooted in? Is it your upbringing? Did you have a very loving upbringing to the point where you feel like I was loved as a child? Because I didn't necessarily feel that growing up as a child. So maybe I had to look for it in God. I don't know. Like I'm genuinely interested to know.
I don't know where it comes from. I mean, I did have a both my parents are really kind of loving and supportive, but they were quite strict. And like I think I've said before, having ADHD, I think sometimes I found that really hard because I think as well, like that was not a thing that was understood when I was a kid. So I was just kind of treated like I was naughty. So I would say I had very loving parents, but that not every aspect of my childhood was positive. I think that had a huge impact on how I interacted with like adults at school, teachers. Had quite a negative experience with school outside of like friendships and stuff like that. I think my gran built into me a lot of self-confidence. She was a very confident woman. I've mentioned her before. But I think some of that has been mind shift stuff that I've kind of done myself, of like building my own confidence and trying to look at what some like any experience has given me rather than what difficult things, rather than, I don't know, looking at the negatives of an experience. That's not to say everything I've been through in my life is positive. I've definitely had like negative experiences. But negative experiences do often give you that kind of strength. And I think it helps you deal with maybe the more routine, mundane setbacks of life because you're like, I've got through tougher things than this. And that is what I think about my pregnancy. I would not like to go through that again. I definitely wouldn't because it was really tough. But it has definitely built in me this attitude of I've been through bigger things than this.
Wow.
Like I can maybe like self-belief that you're like, I can handle this. I went through something really awful and this is peanuts in comparison. Like I'm gonna like I think it's just that belief. It's that I can do this because I've been through that and I got through it and it was hard. And then I took steps to deal with the kind of aftermath as well. So it's like, I did what was right for me, and I know that I can get through something else horrible and tough.
Okay, so having that reference point of if I
Hmm.
can do this, what else can what else can life throw at me, or I can deal with the next thing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Thanks, Alex. So yeah, I think we'll try and wrap it up now. This has been really interesting. I've really enjoyed this topic like this because I hope what from my perspective, what we've shared today is like it's not what's happening in your life, it's how you're the narrative that you're giving to these things that enable you to either give up or stay strong. And I just want to quickly mention a couple of books that again I find really useful. One is a book called Grit by a lady called Angela Duckworth. And again, I will be referencing books over and over again because I just think certain books just really teach you a lot. And secondly, obviously, Man's Search for Meaning. That is a must have for anyone who just wants to develop a better mindset. It's by a guy called Viktor E Frankl. And then it's another book I'm currently reading. I won't say I've read a lot about it, but again, it's about kind of working on your mind and your thoughts and understanding how huge that is. And it's called Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before by a lady called Julie Smith.
Oh, I keep seeing that being
Oh,
advertised in my
right.
books to like listen to
Well,
next. So,
oh,
is
that's
it good?
I had the same came up and I thought, anything that helps me build my mind is important. But yeah, that's my three last recommendations.
And
Um,
which one would you say the Viktor E Frankl one is like the
oh,
key?
that is a timeless book. Like I just think even Sebastian and Bella will read that. Like my children have to read those books. It's such because he went through the worst tragedies and yet he came out of it because of his belief, the way he was thinking, the way he was interpreting things, it's inner dialogue. And I just think this is what life's about. This is how we overcome bad things. It's our mindset and our thinking. But we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys. I don't know if Alex, you want to, summarize your kind of thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job there of summarizing it actually. And the one thing I would add is try, if you do find yourself needing additional help from outside, that you get it and take it. Try and search for real help if you need it as well. The mindset stuff's important, but yeah, there is help out there as well if you need it too.
Amazing. Thank you so much, guys. It's been
Thank you.
great. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.